Hey guys, what's going on? I'm just gonna talk right now. I didn't put together kind of talking points like I do a lot of times with other shows. Just making sure I cover all bases. I'm not doing that right now. Essentially, what I want to talk about is this election that's tomorrow, and I think that it is important that people understand that when we say this is the most important election of your lifetime, that's not a lie. This is not hyperbole. It just isn't. And you'll say, oh my God, you guys say that every election cycle. It's the most important election of your lifetime. You know what? Every single election pretty much is for that time period. Because Republicans have consistently tried to take away rights from everyday Americans. Every election cycle, that's why it's so important. This one is uniquely important because you have over 100-something Republicans running that don't even believe the last election really even happened. That's a unique thing in American politics. That's not something we've actually experienced before. And I know people right now are struggling. I get it, 100%. I do. I get it. And it sucks that you are struggling. I feel sorry for you. I really do. That hardship, man, I'm telling you, a lot of times you have to think from an individualistic perspective, and it has to be sometimes exclusively about you because you're struggling to figure out how you're going to put food on the table or how you're going to put gas in the car to even get to work, or you're struggling to figure out, how you're going to keep the lights on or how you're going to pay your phone bill or how you're going to take care of your kids. I can tell you this, Democrats have solutions for those things more than Republicans do. Are Democrats perfect? No, they're not. As a matter of fact, they are fundamentally flawed as a party. They have no spinal cord. They're very weak people. Many times I'm thinking, let's go to a graveyard, get some spinal cords, and we'll inject them into the Democrats. They annoy the shit out of me. And I'm telling you this as a Democrat. They piss me off. That's my emotional perspective on Democrats. If you ask me logically to tell you what I think is in anyone's best interest right now, in consideration of the trajectory of this country at this point, then I would tell you that Democrats are the best bet here. The one thing you can assure yourself about Democrats is they're not going to try to take away fundamental rights. Do Democrats do stupid things? Yeah. But are Democrats going to try and destroy the democratic principles? And you can say, I don't give a flying F about democracy. I'm a socialist, I'm a communist, whatever. The reason why you can say those things is because you live in a democratic society. That's why you're comfortable to be like, I don't like capitalism, I don't whatever, because you live in a democratic society that allows you to have those thoughts, allows you to express those feelings. That is why it is so important to preserve what we have here. And a lot of people say, well, Democrats are taking away free speech. Let me just say something. Free speech is a concept that is applicable to a governmental agency. Private platforms are not required to comply with that constitutional principle. They're not. And free speech also encompasses someone's right to object to what you are doing. So when you say, I said this, and then people said they're not going to follow me anymore, or they don't want to listen to me anymore, they're also exercising their free speech. You need to understand that. That is a fundamental principle. That is a reciprocal relationship. When you say that you believe in free speech, that means you also believe in my right to say the things that I want to say. So when you hear Democrats doing certain things and Democrats saying, I'm not going to support your store, I'm not going to support your business, I'm not going to retweet you, I'm not going to comment on your stuff anymore, that is also an exercise in free speech. None of the constitutional amendments are absolute. None of them are. So when you say they're going to take away my right, the Second Amendment gives me, uninhibited right to just have bearing arms, it doesn't actually say that. And as a matter of fact, even the Second Amendment is regulated. Not regulated enough, but it is regulated. None of these amendments are absolute. A lot of them are subject to discretion. So if it's about fundamental principles, the constitutional principles, I should say, then you have to understand that none of those things that you sit there and talk about in terms of your right to have absolute ability to exercise that, none of that stuff that you're saying is actually true. It's not. We all, in order to be able to live in this society that we live in, we have to collectively be willing to compromise on certain things. I'm going to be honest with you. Whether a Democrat or Republican are in office, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. I will. But I have never voted from an individualistic perspective. If I consider myself a patriot, you consider yourself a patriot, then you should care about the collective. So whether or not I'm going to be fine or not is not really the analysis I use to determine whether or not what is in the best interest of the country holistically. And if I'm going to be fine under both of them, then why don't I vote for the Democrat knowing that my fellow Americans will be fine as well or better off? See, I'm not on Medicare or Medicaid. I don't get Social Security, but millions of Americans are and do. And so if you decide now, I'm going to vote for Republicans, and Republicans are telling you openly that they're willing to take away or cut away or chip away, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, any of these entitlement programs, do you know how many people will be affected? Social Security, especially, we're putting our money in every single check. We're going and putting our money in to pay towards Social Security. I'm getting taxed out the wazoo. I'm getting taxed endlessly. But part of that is because we all collectively contribute to the greater good. If you believe that, if you consider yourself a humanist and you care about people, generally care about people and care about the plight, because you know what? We live in a better and safer society when everybody is able to do better. It's a fact. The most stable societies are those where people have some kind of like similar, where most people are somehow sustained. Those are the best societies. And we need to get there. But you cannot do it when you have a party who's legitimately trying to overthrow democracy. You talk about the vaccinations, you talk about COVID, you blame Democrats for the shutdowns and lockdowns and the vaccines. But let's be honest, who was responsible for the vaccines? Who was touting that as one of their greatest accomplishments as president of the United States? It was Trump. And to this day, he still touts that as one of his greatest accomplishments. The lockdown started under him, but you blame Democrats for them. Democrats came in power after COVID even started. Mind you, and I'm not even saying Trump made a bad decision. I actually think he did the right thing. You're dealing with this epidemic, this pandemic, this deadly disease where people are dropping dead left, right, and center. No one has ever seen it before. No one knows what it is. There is no cure. So immediately people, they panicked, and they should, because you don't want your fellow Americans, global citizens, to continue to die. So everybody decided, let's shut it down. You should be mad at Republicans, though, if your livelihood was hindered because Republicans didn't want to help you. They had to sit here and debate for a long time to decide to give you, what, $1,500? And a couple checks here and there? How was anyone going to survive off that? People were upset about that concept. And a lot of times the people upset about that, look at their economic portfolio. Just check their economic portfolio. They don't suffer either way. So even if everything shut down, they're still going to be able to sustain themselves financially. You weren't. And as a consequence, you're taking that on Democrats when Democrats aren't the ones who shut the country down. It was Trump. He was the president when that happened. And he did the right thing. As much as I have disliked that man, that was the right decision at that time to do that. He did a lot of stupid things too, by not like taking it as seriously as he should have, because he didn't find it. He found it to be something that tainted his presidency. But people were dying. What were people supposed to do? Just continue to allow us to gather with each other when we weren't even sure how it spreads, how badly it can get? You've seen people who are hospitalized for long periods of time. They didn't know what it really was. And now that we've kind of like, we're gradually getting back to normalcy, that was under a Democratic president that's happened. So don't let them fool you. You're being lied to. They're lying to you. They're telling you that these cultural issues supersede everything else. That you shouldn't be concerned about whether or not you can pay your bills. You shouldn't be concerned about whether you can put food on the table. You shouldn't be concerned about whether you can pay your phone bill or whether you can pay your gas bill or your electric bill. You shouldn't be concerned about those things. What you really should be concerned about are those cultural issues. Because they've convinced you that your rights are being taken away from you. Your rights are not being taken away from you. Republicans want to take your rights away from you. Republicans want to take away your right to be able to decide who should be in office. And they're trying to take away the rights of millions of Americans from deciding. Even if you're a Republican voter and you're going to consistently vote for Republicans, you should feel like your vote actually matters. It doesn't actually matter if they're just going to say we won the election anyway. So your vote was in vain. It's an insignificant vote because you weren't the determining factor. They were. They decided that for you. You really want to live in a country like that? The reason why you're able to be angry and cuss out your own president in your own country is because you live in a society in which there are democratic principles that allow you to even saying, F the president. You guys have been making jokes about Nancy Pelosi and her husband and the tragedy that happened to him because you live in a free society where people are not telling you, oh my God, you're going to go to jail for saying that. You can't criticize this, the politician or somebody who's powerful. You can't criticize them. You live in a society that allows you to do it. Even if it's reprehensible, you're still allowed to do it. Some of you, what you really want to be able to do is be racist and bigoted without consequences. You want the freedom to say the N-word. That's why some of you felt so liberated when Elon Musk took over Twitter, because you could say the N-word 15,000 times and you felt that there were no consequences. But for you, you feel hindered sometimes because you just can't say the N-word. Or you can't troll Jewish people. Or you can't troll Hispanic people. You can't call the Jewish people the K word. You can't call Hispanic people the S word. You just want, or Chinese people the C word. You want to be able to say those things without any repercussions. But we all know you say them in private anyway. So go out in public. Say it with your chest. Stand 10 toes down in it. Because if that's what you believe, say it. No one stops you from saying it. I'm telling you this as a black person. You have the right to say the N-word. Doesn't mean you have the right to not have consequences. You're not going to go to jail for it, though, because you live in a society that doesn't preclude you from doing so. But most of you, when you talk about freedoms, when you're talking about you feel hindered and you feel like people are infringing upon your rights, what you're talking about is the right to be bigoted without consequences. That's really what this is about. There's no other rights that you feel like are being taken from you. And a lot of times these people, and I'll tell you this as black people, I don't want to be here on too long. I'm probably on longer than I want it to be. But a lot of times as black people, I'll be honest with you, the people who are telling you, don't vote for Democrats. They haven't done anything for us. What are they going to do for us? Let me just explain to you about the political process. You withholding your vote is in no way going to get you any of the change you're looking for. It isn't at all. And when I hear people saying that, I can understand that they have like a very rudimentary understanding of the political process. We live in a system where it is pay to play, period. If you do not have that economic sustenance, if you don't have economic power, you're not changing politicians. Most politicians have corporate donors, super PACs that dictate how they can actually operate. That's why a lot of things end up happening for different groups of people, because they have super PACs that influence and buy politicians into doing their own bidding. You can't go in there and think that they're going to change for you. There's no economic value to do so when we live in a system that is paid to play. So if you really want change, you need to start a super PAC. And you need to start petitioning Congress. That's what you need to do. But you saying, I'm going to withhold my vote is not going to get the change you're looking for. As a matter of fact, the largest growing demographic are Hispanics. It's much easier to just go ahead and court them and continue to fight for them. They also have super PACs. It's easier to go ahead and court them than to continue to waste your time than to continue to try to court black voters when there is no economic value to doing so. And you could say, well, if millions of us don't vote, then they'll lose elections. Yeah, then another Democrat will come in who will come in with a different strategy, and they'll just go in and they'll court everybody but you. And a lot of times you have to be careful playing your hand, because it's like when somebody threatens you constantly, sometimes you're confined by that threat. And so you don't do certain things because you don't want them to actually act on that threat. But when that person comes to you and says, go ahead, do it, and then you do it, you've lost all power. They reclaim that power. And you can't take that back. Power, a lot of times, is in not doing it. So I would also say this. The people who are also telling you, don't vote, they're taking you for granted stuff. Have you seen their bank accounts? Do you know where they get their money from? I guarantee you that they are much more economically sound as a consequence of keeping you down than they would be if they told you the truth. So I'm asking you, as a fellow American, as somebody who is not a bullshitter, I'm not going to tell you to do something that I think is against your interests. I am imploring you, vote blue. Do yourself a favor. And I say that in my videos, do yourself a favor. This is about you doing what is in your best interest as well. It's not in your best interest for people to struggle and suffer, and that creates and breeds a lot of terrible things. You need everybody to feel like there's at least opportunity. You need everybody to feel like they're not in this battle alone. You need people to feel like, I worked so hard for my Social Security. I'm entitled to it. I should get it. You need people to know that that's going to be sustained. Those are the kind of things in society that you should want to live in. You don't want a society in which Republicans are literally have gone mad. MAGA is not a stable political force. It is an irrational force. They're not rooted in logic. They are just so tribalistic at this point that they don't even really see that a lot of stuff they say is so irrational and illogical. They don't really see it. And they're going to say we're illogical, we're irrational. But I mean, I can show you numerous instances of where they're just obnoxiously irrational. And a lot of them are just making up things. They're just contriving stories. It's not even like they don't care about the truth. They don't care about it. So go out and vote, guys. Seriously, go do it. And vote for Democrats. Up and down the tickets. Don't negate your state races. Those are more important than federal races. Those affect what happens to you locally. Your local and state elections, make sure you're voting there as well, because the crazies in the MAGA are in every single state legislature. They're everywhere. And when they take over, they're going to do some real damage. And the thing is, it is very hard to deprogram people. It's very hard to unlearn. You can already see with the mainstream media the damage they have done to this country. They are literally, and they're not going to ever take responsibility, but they are one of the biggest problems we have in this country. And we can talk about them at another time. And I definitely intend to. But they're one of the biggest problems we have right now. The mainstream media. Don't destroy this country. Don't do it. Your grievances, I am not negating them. Both sides of the aisle are full of shit. I agree. But one of them is not trying to destroy democracy. Period. One of them didn't elect a guy like Donald Trump. He's just been an endless headache all the way around. One of them are not trying to take your Social Security. One of them are not trying to take Medicare and Medicaid. One of them are not trying to cut entitlement programs because they understand how important they are. One of them is trying to reduce the cost of prescription drug medications. Are they good when it comes to like war? No, both of them are the same. There's no difference between them. The only difference is the approach to it. But they both agree with it. So yeah, there are definitely problems on either side of the aisle. But right now is not the time to be sitting there talking about those kind of grievances when your country is literally at stake. Let me say something else. To anybody who decided to listen all the way to the end, I appreciate you. But let me say this. Tomorrow, the mainstream media is going to be giving you all kinds of theories and analysis, and pundits are going to be telling you, oh, this is what the people were thinking. It's clear that if Democrats stop being so woke, there's nothing wrong with being woke. They misappropriated the word. They took it and they misappropriated it, and then they redefined it, and they created a concept where anything they don't like is wokeism. I'm tired of hearing it. Wokeism, there's nothing wrong with being woke. Woke is just the understanding and the awareness of social injustices and the willingness to try to do something to curtail those issues. That's it. Trying to eradicate social injustices. That's really what it is. I'm tired of hearing them talk about wokeism. Anything they don't like is wokeism, but that's what you're going to hear on the mainstream media. Is it woke culture that had it? Is it wokeness? Is it wokeness? That's what they're going to be saying tomorrow. They're going to be lying to you their asses off because they want to keep you engaged. I am telling you, tomorrow, if there are any results either way, turn it off. Please. MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, NBC, ABC, all these news networks, turn them off. There are so many better alternative platforms on all these different, on YouTube, that are not going to sit there and try to make you want to commit suicide afterwards. Okay? That are not going to make you like hate your life afterwards. Okay? So please do not listen to them tomorrow. You can listen to them as the results are coming in, but like try to tune out the commentary. But once it's decided and certain races are decided, turn them off. Please do that for yourself, for your own mental health. I'm telling you, I implore you, please do that. But more importantly, guys, I'm going to get off here right now. I've talked for like over 20 minutes and I really do not like doing that. So this video that I'm probably going to make is probably not going to be like a real video. It'll probably just be this audio that I'll put out there because yeah. But nevertheless, please guys, get out there and vote tomorrow. Vote blue, up and down the ticket. State, local, federal. Don't forget. Because this is not about just yourself anymore. It's about the collective. So do yourself a favor and vote blue. Looking forward to talking to you guys after the election too as well, guys. So I'll definitely will be back on here to give you my own analysis of what I think happened in the election either way. But I'm trusting you guys.